episode number 528, recorded Thursday, February 25th, 2021, in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I did an
Nope,
encore.
you already did it. No, you already did my spot. I'm not. Don't. I'm not one of you. Just toss me a bone because you want me. Nope, not gonna do it. Not
Well, I keep
gonna
hoping
do
you're.
it.
I keep hoping you're going to do a duet with me.
Nope, not gonna happen.
Not a duetter.
Nope.
Eh,
You're
no.
lucky I make any musical sounds whatsoever, considering how much I suck at them.
I don't know. I've tried over the years to get people to sing with me. I once tried to get a movie star to sing with me.
How'd that work out?
Well, he later ended up doing a tribute performance to Nat King Cole, and yet he wouldn't sing with me. Clearly, he liked to sing. Oh well. But this is by my calculation, the penultimate Floridian show for me.
Oh no!
Because after next week's episode, I will, in between episodes, be returning to a different place. You know, I could say a better place, but I don't want to insult your state. I'm a little down on it right now, but
Sure.
I'm looking forward to going home because you know the expression, be it ever so humble? You never heard that one?
Yes. All I'm saying is, you seem to be a victim of the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing, and it was a hospital, not the state of Florida.
Oh, I wasn't talking just about that. Before the show, for those of you who weren't here, I was talking about my experience with the local medical system. But no, just in general, you know, I miss home. I do not like other things here as well. But I think Florida is a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't like to live here. But I discovered that I am living here at the moment, according to local regulations. So
I didn't think we were getting down to vaccinating people of our, age group.
Apparently they were. Just again for background, I put my name down months ago because I was going to be here for a few months, and I figured if something opened up, it would. And they called me and said that they had an opportunity this morning. Ran down there, and then they said that they weren't interested. So frustrated, not because of anything other than don't get my hopes up. Either way, my life is not going to change whether I get vaccinated or not. So I'm still going to exercise caution until things get a little more stable.
All right.
Maybe a little less caution, but still caution. For now, again, just that's the farthest I've gone in Florida on a weekday in a while. Anyway, beyond that and my annoyance, it's tonight is of course Purim, which is why the show got delayed. I went to go hear the Megillah. You know what troubles me about it though? I don't know why they've never made the story into like a Hollywood blockbuster. It has all the essentials of a Hollywood story.
Does it now?
Yeah. You know, it starts out with a drunken party, and at the end of the party, a guy demands that his wife show up naked in front of all his friends. And when she doesn't, he has her killed and replaces her with a younger woman. And that's just the first act.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like a Hollywood blockbuster?
It's doesn't seem like a movie I'd watch.
I didn't say it was a movie you'd watch. There are better parts too. You know, there's political intrigue. And at the end, there's a happy ending. There's taxation.
You know, you and I, we're really different. My definition of a good time just seems to be, well, slightly different. And that's okay.
I'd like to point out this is I don't read the same story every year for any reason other than a religious obligation. I know what happens. There's no suspense in it for me anymore.
How long until you figured out that the story wasn't going to change?
I figured that out pretty early on. It's been like that for a while. The purpose of reading the story is to remember what happened, not to expect it. It's not going to change. Other than that, but I have been watching stories where I don't know what's going to happen. Every Friday, I've been watching WandaVision, which a lot of people have been talking about because they don't know where it's going. It inspired me to catch up on all of my Marvel movies. I missed about 12 years worth of them.
Yes.
Except for those Spider-Man ones, I'm up to date so that I could understand what's going on in this WandaVision show. There's only one problem. If you've ever watched that show, you don't have any idea what's going on.
You needed Spider-Man to understand WandaVision?
No, I'm saying that I was trying to watch all of the Marvel movies, and I've watched all of the Marvel movies. Technically, the Spider-Man movies are licensed through Sony, so they are and they are not Marvel Universe movies. So I have not watched them.
Okay.
But I caught up on all the other ones. I found out what happened to everyone. So, what it is. You wonder, why were they doing that? And then there are like 3 more movies that explain why they were doing that you never bothered to watch. So I'm up to date. But it's interesting to have a show that makes you wonder what's going to happen from week to week. There aren't enough shows like that now that streaming tends to release everything all at once. I sort of like the suspense of waiting a week to find out what's going on. I also, at the same time, hate the suspense of waiting a week to find out what's going on.
Well, that's just a love-hate relationship.
Yep. And elsewhere, I resumed my Stargate watching, which I know you were encouraging me to do.
I always encourage watching Stargate.
Yeah.
A bunch of atheists going around the universe killing gods.
Yeah, I told you we have a very different point of view on that also. The Ori bother me for other reasons. But I know I was contemplating what you asked me last week about why killing a bunch of Egyptian gods and that whole thing doesn't bother me.
Well, I think maybe because the Ori seem more aligned with our current monotheistic view of the supernatural.
I don't know. I thought it was, for me, I have a very long-standing response to Christian missionaries, and that's who they remind me of.
Okay.
Remember, those are a bunch of people who come over, talk to me, tell me I'm going to hell and go away. So, not people I enjoy talking to. If somebody wants to have a legitimate religious debate, I enjoy those. Anyway, beyond that and my issues, I also kept alternating back and forth between Atlantis and SG-1. I want to know, why was there not more Colm Meaney in Atlantis? Why did they sort of show him and then, he became sort of a backstage character?
I don't know who that is.
He was the guy who played Miles O'Brien on Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
He played one of the early bad guys.
Maybe he was involved in Star Trek and didn't have the time.
I don't think so. I thought it went off the air by then.
I don't know.
But again, they brought him in to play.
They seem like they're both from the same era. Stargate, the Next Generation and Stargate.
No, this doesn't bother me. What year did Deep Space Nine go off the air? 1999. And when did Stargate Atlantis have its first season? It had its first season in, 2004. So it was 5 years later.
Okay, so I was wrong.
Yeah. But I'm disappointed because he played a very interesting bad guy. I'm not sure if you recall the role.
I do not. Oh, was he one of the? Oh, what are they called? The oh, they're like the steampunk bad guys.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I know who the bad guys are, but I can't remember their names right now. What they're called?
Do you want me to spoil it for you?
Yes, please.
Janai.
Did I?
Well, I was
Yes.
just watching it.
Yes.
Yeah. But it seemed like
Well, they are really bad.
instead of using more Colmini, which would have been fine, they brought in Robert Davey, who's also a very good actor and has appeared in a lot of things.
The whole Jedi arc, I did not particularly enjoy.
I thought they could have done it better. See, what we need next is our own popular culture show.
I don't know if I
You know-
know enough popular culture to do that.
You know, like what's that, Media Buffet?
Yeah. I mean, I do watch a lot of TV shows, but not like popular ones.
Well, again,
Like-
there seems to be like a big market in, going through and watching episodes of an old show and talking about it. That could be us.
You know, a show that seems kind of applicable to today, especially if you've watched it a few times, so you're not just concentrated on the plot, but paying attention to the overall universe and the motivations behind the people.
I'm waiting
Person
for
of
it.
interest.
The thing is, I watched Person of Interest for I think like the first few seasons, and then I don't know, but there were several shows that I stopped watching because they kept being preempted by football. I forget if that was one of them. I think it was. Where the football game would rush
Sure.
along, and I would always record things, and then my recording would cut off the last 20 minutes of the episode.
I remember a show about like Navy SEALs or something called The Unit or something like that I stopped watching because every time I tried to record the show, it ended up recording like 45 minutes of football and then
And that just annoys me.
yep.
But, sometimes I've gone back and actually finished up certain things that I stopped doing because of that.
Person of Interest got so good especially in the later seasons. Oh,
Well, I remember they brought in that very serious character, the one who had her own show before that. What was that actress's name? It was going to bother me. Anyway,
Amy Acker,
I don't think so.
Sarah Sahi.
That was the one.
Yep.
And I think
She was an on again, off again, but I
think
like her.
I think that was roughly the time when I started to not be able to catch the episodes as much. But at some point I'll go back. I'm sure there's some service that has it.
It's so good and seems so relevant to what, especially, I look at the world and I see people who are giving up their freedoms and their rights in order to feel more safe, and especially in the last few seasons, there's very much that theme of it's the AI which respects your privacy and your rights to self-governance versus the evil AI which just wants to take away all your decision-making ability but keep you safe.
All I can say on the matter, we'll say in the real world is, I'll go back to, I believe it was Benjamin Franklin who, long before any technology came around that was significant, commented that people who give up, liberty for security deserve neither. I wrote the exact quote is. Let's talk about some happy topics.
I believe what he said was people who will give up liberty for short-term safety deserve not the former and will not receive the latter.
Yeah, I was summarizing. I didn't remember the exact quote, but I think you're probably closer to what exactly it said.
Yeah, it's exactly that, and I see it in today's society, and it just drives me.
Yeah, but it's
batshit
interesting. It's
crazy.
interesting that he predicted it. Now, admittedly, Franklin had his own problems.
200 years ago, he realized this was coming.
Yeah, but Franklin also boasted, lied, and otherwise exaggerated a lot. So he was a very smart guy, but he did do some things that I could.
Nobody is perfect, except for me. But
Well, I just tend to ponder it on what John Adams said on the subject?
Which was?
He thought nobody would remember him and that everybody would just remember Franklin, as if Franklin did everything. As a commentary on Franklin's tendency to take credit for stuff. Anyway.
Well, Franklin is probably a well. Things that Franklin said are probably far more known than Adams.
Yeah, and that bothered Adams, apparently.
Well,
because Adams was not exactly lacking in contributions. He just wasn't as self-promoting. Equally arrogant, but not as self-promoting. Anyway, let's talk about Android 12.
All right, cool. There are lots to talk about Android 12.
Yeah, so the first preview of Android 12 came out. So this is, again, one of the early developer previews. And it includes a bunch of interesting things. There's, again, more privacy stuff that they're looking at in terms of additional controls. That would be same-safe cookie behaviors in WebView, a restricted netlink MAC. So this is for your MAC address. So that allows you to have resettable identifiers, which
nice.
to some degree I like that, and it annoys me because I like being able to give out constant MAC addresses using DHCP and constant IP addresses, and if your device is constantly changing its identifier, you can't give it an IP address.
Yep.
But again, I'm sure there's a solution.
Well, you can give it an IP address, you just can't give it a static IP address.
Yeah.
Static-ish.
Yeah, I would like it if I had something that I could use to do that.
I know.
Specifically when it went out to the network. But again, I'm sure somebody will try to solve that problem at some point. So, safer exporting of components. Safer handling of intent. So this is, again, locking down all of the sort of internal things that people exploit to do interesting things but are not necessarily good on a security side, because they could also be exploited to do not so nice things.
Yep.
Let's see. Improvements in media transcoding, AVIF image support, foreground service optimizations, rich content insertion. Audio coupled haptic effect. So this is, again, improved haptic feedback.
Interestingly, that's the first thing my daughter turns off.
I sort of like
She hates haptic feedback. I like it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I wanted audio. I mean, I'm that quick, the way vibration works is it's got an off balance weight that it spins, and it like spins it once. I mean, that's perfect for me.
Yeah, but again, it's saying that this is audio coupled haptic feedback. You don't have to have haptic feedback coupled with audio. It says that the strength and frequency are derived from an audio session. So the idea being that you could do a lot of interesting things. It doesn't mean you have to do those things. It just gives a lot.
I don't know, man. I'm sure it's an awesome feature. I just probably don't understand it.
Well, I don't see this. The two examples they have are a video calling app could use custom ringtones to identify the caller through haptic feedback. So essentially, your haptic feedback could vibrate according to some sort of like musical tones. I don't really see that because, again, if I'm... Yeah. No, I'm saying I can't see that because if I'm looking at the phone, then I can see what, maybe that would be useful for somebody who has a vision issue. Because that I could see as an accessibility feature.
Sure, I'll buy that.
But the other one I could actually see for, anybody... it would be simulating rough terrain in a racing game. So if you're playing a game using your finger on the phone, that the vibrations could simulate rough terrain, and that could lead to a lot of interesting game improvements.
All right.
So
I'll buy it. Sure.
So there's an immersive mode API improvements for gesture navigation. So essentially, that's hiding the... Now, I went back to gestures when I got the Pixel 5 just to sort of try that again to see if it improved.
Yeah.
So I'm still on gestures. So when I told you that I'd ordered my mother a replacement phone, when she got it and it defaulted to the new gesture navigation, she said I couldn't figure out how to use my phone, change it back.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, for me, I said okay. I had trouble with it, but I gave it a chance. I'm not sure I like it, but I figure eventually they won't give me the choice, so I have to see if I can. It got better than
Really?
well, somebody may put in an app to re-enable it, but eventually they're not going to support legacy issues with the buttons, and it does give you more screen real estate to be realistic. And to be
I
honest,
like my buttons.
apps caught up. Early on, the problem was that you kept swiping in places that the apps were sensitive to, and I think most apps have sort of moved their sensitive areas away from where the system has them.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Because I know I could think of at least 3 apps where I would swipe in the appropriate corner, and because the app was used to me doing that, it would just set something off. Faster, oh, excuse me, I missed one. Notification UI updates. So this would be notification designs to make them more modern, changes from the drawer controls. So essentially, they just redecorated a little and more
Well,
responsive.
they did. They also made some stuff easier. Like snoozing a notification is now easier than doing some swipey stuff. Now there's like going to be a button there.
Yeah, I'm just saying a lot of the stuff is, stylistic, and sometimes that's good.
I think we've gotten to the point where we're not going to run into any major changes, which is
Yeah,
very good. It's
That's
maturity.
maturity, and see we're in agreement. Let's see here. Improved binder IPC calls.
I don't know what that means.
Neither do I. That seems like, judging by the context, it seems like a developer thing. So it's latency and workload distribution and made optimizations that reduce the median experience from the tail end. So essentially, they've made things work faster.
Yay?
Yeah. They're trying to encourage developers to actually optimize for tablets, foldables, and TVs. It would be nice if more apps were TV capable. Because you've heard me sort of comment on my issues with Google TV and certain things I can't do on it, that I think it's just a matter of some minor changes. I'd like Zoom on my Chromecast for Android. That would make the device perfect. This evening, in order to put the Zoom Megillah reading up on the television, I had to hook in a laptop. I would have loved to just do that with a Chromecast for Android. It has enough power. It just needs somebody at Zoom to modify their app to work on the big screen.
Where would you get the camera?
You can get one. I have a
You can hook up a camera to a Chromecast?
well, no, the Chromecast for the Chromecast with Google TV, not the little Chromecast.
Ah,
So the new
Okay.
Chromecast, the white one, or I think they have like a pink one. The one that they're currently selling, not the less expensive one that just allows you to cast to it, the one that has like a remote and an interface. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
I think so, yes.
So what you can do is it uses a USB-C port. You can put a hub in between and plug a camera in between the power and the wall. So you can do that to add, to mount a video device so that you could play local media. But I looked, the Google Duo is actually enabled for the TV interface, so you actually could take a Duo call on your screen. So,
Alrighty.
there's nothing that stops Zoom from doing it. It's, again, I could probably sideload the Zoom app and get the same effect. I just really don't want to sideload. It's a pain in the neck. Especially now that they have those app bundles. Anyway, moving along. Past that, let's see. We didn't cover UI optimizations for easier one-hand use.
Yeah. The article had a single solitary example, and I didn't like that example. I thought it looked better in the old one. I thought it was easier to use in the old one.
And I'm not
Had
arguing
bigger
with you.
targets.
Yeah, I think the idea was that this is one of those settings that you can adjust. And also remember, a lot of things in a developer preview never see the light of day.
One can hope.
Yeah. So we covered snoozing notifications. We didn't cover the emergency SOS feature. So in the new version, you could tap your power button 5 times to launch a countdown to call 911.
5 times.
Yeah.
Man, I can't even triple click on my mouse. I don't think I can count to five quick.
Well, not only that, they don't immediately call 911. There's like a 5-second countdown. Also, you can reprogram it to call another emergency number, but if it changes from 911, you have to unlock your phone. Again, I could see this along with, some other things. Apparently, there's.
I mean, I guess that's cool. It's something you're not likely to do by accident. But if you do it by accident, there's the option to cancel it. And it's something that you can do completely without. I mean, you could do it with your phone in your pocket, right?
And apparently, the people on iOS does have an emergency SOS feature. I'm just looking here. To do an emergency, you would hold the side button and one of the volume buttons until the emergency SOS slider, and then you would drag it, which seems a lot more complicated.
That doesn't seem like something you could do in your pocket.
Well, it's more if it's an emergent. If the whole point is to make it easy to dial 911 in an emergency, I think if something that's easy to set off, but does a countdown, is probably easier. To allow you to stop it is probably easier than having to go through like 3 hoops to get to it.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree that the Android version is better than the iOS version.
Yeah, and it's still under development. They'll probably do some testing. You can limit which apps display media controls, which is a nice feature.
Okay.
Because I know there are some things where I do not want media controls. I'll give you an example. I have the Sirius XM app on my phone. I put my Sirius in my car on. They do vacation. Have you ever talked to the people at Sirius? They're a tremendous pain to deal with. But
must admit, I never have.
Good. They're one of the few companies where you can't get very much done without talking to a human being. It's one of those things. I think they're just hoping that you're going to pay them money and forget.
Yep.
But either way, every time I talk to them, I get frustrated. They talked me into a vacation suspension instead of a permanent disconnect just because it was easier than another 5-time argument with them. So I figure I'll argue with them again in 6 months. But, moving along. Let's see here. But their app, the Sirius XM app, even though I installed it and have it on there and have not played anything out of it in a while, it keeps taking over media controls and displaying that I can play music, which I can understand if I recently used it. But,
hey, you, don't forget about me. Hello.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been upset ever since they lost Cousin Brucey. Moving along, Android 12 is testing a automatic sound status for notifications, where apparently the OS will decide whether or not it's going to essentially make a sound or a vibration. So essentially, it's trying.
I hope this is better than I suspect it will be.
Well, the idea is that even though you could manually program these things, maybe you want the system to try to learn from you. So I think it's like a very early feature where it will learn from what you do with those notifications to decide whether or not they're important or not important, like how long it takes you to respond to them, etc., and whether you dismiss them or action them, and then give them rankings, and you know how Google does data.
I certainly can appreciate the don't make me specifically choose an option if you can learn what I want by observing what I do.
And I think that's what this is going to be once they finish it.
I guess that's cool.
And here's one that I thought might disappoint you. Samsung's next watch may be powered by Wear OS. Because I know you like Tizen.
I love my watch. But if Wear OS is, I think eventually they're gonna congeal on a operating system. I mean, you just can't. It's a really niche type market, and too many options spreads it out too much. It spreads out the developers too much.
Well, I thought that they would just do what it was that they did with Android, which is do customizations on top of the OS.
Well, I think Wear OS wasn't at a point where it was really...
And Google is not giving it the level of love I thought. I heard recently that their newest feature is going to be the ability to take screenshots. Why do I care about screenshots on my watch? Ooh, the time was 10:12. Now I know. I didn't know that. I need a screenshot to show exactly what that was. There might be more to it than that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
It just, since I haven't been going out, my watch has not been getting the level of use that it would when I was out and about.
Yep.
And probably once I start going out and about and needing to have a device that allows me to get my notifications without constantly looking at my phone, which is the purpose of for me for having a smartwatch, I will likely look into whether or not the one I have needs to be upgraded, because it is older than some of my other devices. You know, you have to keep up with the Joneses. See, how long have I been waiting to use that expression in conversation with you?
Just wait until I tell you what I did that might make it a little bit harder to keep up.
Well, let's finish up what we have here with
Yep.
Android 12. So apparently, Samsung has also apparently become the unofficial worst offender for killing background application by not only not adhering to Google's guidelines, but essentially, completely going in the opposite direction.
It kills all the things?
Essentially, it's just extremely aggressive, which is one of the things that Google sort of called out manufacturers for doing. So,
Well, it's how you get long battery life.
yeah, so the thing is that Samsung is aggressively killing background apps in its Android 11. It prevents apps from holding wake lock and foreground services, and it's a divergence from the standard process management policy and can result in some background apps breaking, including health apps that lose the ability to gather sensor data.
Yep.
And this is after Google said it would take measures to prevent exactly this sort of behavior from its partners. So it's sort of Google.
Take actions.
Yeah, it's sort of Google said, this is breaking the experience. Work with us. Don't work against us. And Samsung said, we're fine working against you.
Well, all right.
I'm simplifying that, but that's pretty much it.
No, I think you're not far along. Samsung is saying we know better than you do.
Yeah, and again...
And maybe they do.
I don't know. It would be nice if they agreed on something.
They agree Android's cool.
Okay. Stacked widgets and a new lock screen may also be coming. So stacked widgets are an interesting idea. I don't know why I want my widgets to be stacked.
I can surmise, I can offer a plausible reason.
Do you use widgets?
I do use widgets. I use widgets a lot.
I only have a few.
The widgets are very limited. They're limited to rectangular spaces, right? And so even if a widget doesn't use a rectangular space, like its graphics don't include everything within a rectangular space, it still takes up the rectangular space and you can't put anything else in there. If you can stack them so that you can, use the unused portion for another widget, then I like that. I like it a lot.
I want my widgets to act like Tetris pieces. So I want them in all the shapes a Tetris piece comes in. I think that would be fun.
You get two of the shapes.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think it would be fun to have like L shapes and T shapes.
And I think this kind of allows you to get that same effect.
Well, I'll look. Also, apparently they're once again fiddling with the lock screen, which is fine.
Let's just put more stuff on it.
More stuff, less stuff. Yeah. They've gone back and forth on it. If you have a 5G phone, which Jerry, both you and I do, they're looking to enable 5G with dual SIM standby on the 5 and the 4A 5G. So essentially in, I think it was Android 10, the Pixels and other phones that had dual SIMs had the ability to switch between the SIMs. So they did have but that isn't supported on 5G, so 12 would actually enable that feature. Now, I now have a phone that has both an eSIM and a SIM card slot as the 5.
You do?
Doesn't the 5 have a SIM card slot somewhere? I didn't look.
It has a SIM card slot on the side, yes.
Yeah, I didn't open it because I used the eSIM. But it means if I went to another country, it means that I could add a local SIM in and still keep my Google Fi stuff. It also means if I decided to leave Fi, then I could have my provider and assuming my provider did eSIM, and then a SIM card from another country if I went abroad. And one of the things I like about Google Fi is the ability to go abroad without doing things, but I'm not going anywhere. And there are cheaper networks, to be honest. Admittedly, I like Fi, but you know what they say, what have they done for me lately? No, so I'm saying that because they haven't innovated, it means that my product loyalty to them is not necessarily a guarantee in the future.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got rid of the Hangouts integration, which meant that all of my messages went to the same place, and now I have to put them in multiple places. They haven't changed their pricing scheme significantly in how long, and other companies are undercutting them. So there are reasons why I would consider going to somebody else. T-Mobile just put in their Magenta Unlimited plan, which is not that expensive. I had a conversation with Verizon about my parents' plan, and they just lowered their price by $10, so I might be able to take the money that I'm giving to Fi, give it to my parents, and join their family share. So there's other ways I could save money while getting the same or more data and more features. The only thing I'd probably lose would be the international stuff. But again, not going anywhere. Someday. Anyway, also I read a lot of the Google Fi subreddit, where people spend all their time complaining about Google Fi, and my co-host left Google Fi also.
What a jerk.
So back to Samsung, they are offering 4 years of Android security updates. So the Pixel only offers 3 years.
Okay.
And of course, Google dropped 5 new features. So these would be things that you don't need a new phone to get. So this includes password checkup on Android. So since you can save your passwords to your Google account, they've integrated a password checkup, which tells you if a password you used has been exposed and what to do about it. So more security.
Yep.
They've upgraded messages to allow scheduling a message, so you can write it now and schedule it.
It's an awesome feature, but I don't know. I find that feature funny.
Well, I sort of understand their use case is that you want to send a message to somebody in a different time zone, and you want to schedule it to come when you think they're going to wake up instead of beeping on their phone in the middle of the night. I could see that. Generally, my philosophy is that I put the onus on the receiver that if they don't want to be disturbed, they will mute their volume.
Yeah.
But I could understand how you would want to put the onus on the sender rather than the receiver to be considerate of other people.
Seems like an opportunity for creation of alibis. When you're going to kill somebody, you can leave your phone at home and send text messages. I'm just saying.
That's where your mind goes immediately?
That's where my mind immediately went.
Okay. Are you? I'm hoping this is because you want to write a crime thriller, not because you are planning an upcoming murder.
I can neither confirm nor deny, but I will say I am unlikely to write any stories and or books.
Okay. Please don't commit a murder, because I don't want to be a potential accomplice or a witness. Anyway,
so being the victim's okay? I just want to clarify.
Don't want that either. I don't want to have any involvement in your murder plans. If you could, that would be helpful if you could avoid that.
But they could be fun.
So apparently there have been improvements to TalkBack, which is the Android screen reader.
Yeah.
They are putting in more things you can do hands-free with the Google Assistant. And there's a dark theme for Google Maps.
And how is dark theme different than night mode?
Apparently this one is always in dark theme. So there's now a setting to make it always work that way instead of night mode, which is actually triggered when it's dark.
Shenanigans.
Yeah. And with Android Auto, they've introduced a bunch of things. Custom wallpapers.
Yep.
And
shortcuts.
Yeah, and apparently for longer drives, you can stay entertained with voice-activated games. So I thought about trying this. Just telling Google to give me some trivia.
Yeah.
There's just one problem. Well, lately I've been driving my parents around, and we don't do well with trivia.
This is actually kind of relevant to the thing I mentioned earlier that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, no, in a minute. But with me and trivia, there's still some hard feelings about the Trivial Pursuit game we played 20 years ago. I refuse to play.
Really?
Well, I refuse to play with them. Why do you think we play Ticket to Ride lately? It's really hard to get into a Ticket to Ride argument. Well, no. Do you know? Do you know the
funny.
difference between a European style and a American style board game? I was reading about this recently. So, a European style, or also known as a German style, because apparently it became very popular in Germany, it would be a type of game that has indirect player interaction and abstract physical components, as opposed to American style games, which involve more luck, conflict, and drama.
Interesting.
So the idea is that because the player interaction is indirect instead of direct, it encourages socialization during the game because you're not directly competing with each other. Your competition is essentially because you're occupying the same space, not because you are actively trying to get it. And the points, just to use Ticket to Ride, which is the style of game, or things like Settlers of Catan, which I think is now just called Catan. All these games, they tend to total up a lot of the points at the end.
Yeah.
So and they don't, because you don't know how people are doing. There's not as much competition during the gameplay.
Seems kind of shady to me.
Yeah. So just a few examples: incentive for social play, which again, the games support socialization, as opposed to again games that support competition. They have a mechanism to stop the game within its stated playing time.
Really?
No player elimination. So none of the games eliminate a player before the end of the game because it's contrary to the social aspect.
Like Monopoly, where when you're bankrupt, you're gone?
Yeah. So the idea is that the board mechanics essentially are designed to encourage socialization during the course of the game. Because the idea is a game is supposed to be a social thing. At least a board game. Well, remember, there are advantages to all these philosophies. And mechanics are used, again, and some other things are avoided. So the board is usually irregular rather than uniform. The board is often random or has random elements. And the random elements do not usually dominate gameplay. And while the rules are light, they allow depth of play requiring thought planning and a shift of tactics throughout the game. And they tend to de-emphasize luck and random elements, and often the only random element will be resource or terrain distribution in the initial setup.
Huh. I had no idea. But I guess it makes sense.
No, I was reading about this, and I just thought it was really interesting.
It is.
So I've decided that this seems to work very well for my family, who tend to be, not always, but somewhat competitive. So we can be competitive, but it can be in a much friendlier way. By the way, I keep winning.
Well, clearly that's because you're mean.
No, clearly that's because I have a good strategy that seems to work. But we haven't got into fighting about it, which we do tend to do in Trivial Pursuit. Anyway, moving along. So you can now play a game in your car, and there apparently is options for a privacy screen. And for wider...
Huh?
And we're back to Android Auto.
A privacy screen?
So you can set a privacy screen to control when auto appears on your display. So if you have other people in your car, you can control. Remember, anybody can see what's on there.
Right.
So you can set a privacy screen to control when it appears on your display. You can essentially, if you have a wider screen in your car, you can do a split screen. So a lot of interesting things going on there.
Huh.
I do like auto.
Yep.
Google Fit is now starting to automatically detect when your workout is done.
That's kind of funny.
Well, I don't know. The reason why I haven't been using Google Fit to track my limited exercise, like just the other night, I went and walked around on the roof. No one was there, and that was my goal.
All right.
Every time I try to walk in nicer places than the roof, there are too many people around. It's very crowded outside. Anyway, so every time I do something like that, I end up turning on the feature to track the workout so I know how long I walked, and then forgetting to turn it off. So I appreciate that they've realized that I'm clearly not the only one who starts the workout tracking and then forgets to turn the thing off.
My wife and I do that all the time.
Yeah, so Google has tried to solve a problem for me, and I appreciate that. That's what I expect Google to be doing, trying to solve my problems.
Yep.
Yeah. Google Calendar now lets you split working hours and repeating out of office entries. So they've realized that people's days are not 9 to 5 anymore, and they may have, odder schedules in the current situation. So apparently, Calendar has caught up with this. If you are tired of all of the bloatware on your phone, a program called the Universal Android Debloater can help get rid of it.
Interesting. Will it delete Facebook?
Can you do that without the app?
Not on some phones.
Well, not on yours. I don't think it's. I'm reasonably certain the Pixel does not force bundle Facebook.
It was. I just never installed it. But some phones come with Facebook installed. So.
Yeah, but I'm saying there are very few that won't let you get rid of it. But this essentially it's an app that gets rid of a lot of these things, and makes it easy to get rid of things that can't be easily gotten rid of.
Wow. It's got a debloat list for the Google phones. So cool.
Well, I was a little annoyed with the Pixel 3 that there were actually applications that I couldn't get rid of, including Play Music, because that was a system app one, even though it's been discontinued. You'd think that they would realize, like in a subsequent update, that they could turn it off from being a system app. But anyway. So that's that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, yes. Frogger is getting a TV show.
Not only a TV show, an entire channel, right?
Well, it's being turned into a physical... well, it's not an entire channel. It's going to be on... Frogger is going to be on Peacock, which is the NBC streaming network. So NBC has ordered 13 episodes of a physical competition series based on Frogger.
Oh, see, I was thinking this was the... I confused Peacock with a different service where they have binge channels that are just the same. You binge watch a show. You just turn the channel on and you binge watch a show.
Yeah, no, I understand the idea, and I think there are advantages to that. But this is apparently they are making a Frogger show.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I talk about Frogger all the time. I'm usually
talking. When will it be out? Because so what we've seen so far is they've just ordered half a season.
Yeah. It'll take a while. Especially now, production of most shows is somewhat slowed by the current situation.
This seems like very much one of those American Ninja type shows.
The reason why I think about Frogger a lot is that I think some people who grew up playing Frogger now think that's the way you're supposed to drive. I just watch people darting in and out of traffic, and it just reminds me of Frogger.
But that's not... All the drivers on Frogger they go constant speeds in a straight line.
No, I'm talking about the frog.
It's not... Yeah, but it's the guy trying to get across traffic that's the problem.
Yeah, and
the traffic.
No, what I'm saying is that's the way that I see people driving reminds me of the way you move that frog around in Frogger. Darting to the left, darting to the right. I just have the music stuck in my head all of a sudden. Do. Anyway. And finally, another end of an era, Fry's Electronics is closing. Have
They're
you ever
closing
been?
their physical stores.
Yeah, have you ever been to a Fry's?
Yes, we've got. There's one in Atlanta that I've been to a few times.
Well, Fry's is a unique place. If you look, the stores all had
Oh, it's great.
these themes. They had a lot of electronic components and all these things. And because
It's like a Radio Shack and a CompUSA and it's all the electronics. I I wish we had one locally.
well, I'll just say that there are none in New York. So I went to visit a friend of mine a few years ago in California, and they said you have to experience Fry's. And yeah, that was the sort of store that I would sort of like in my area. The closest I have right now would be Micro Center. I
Yeah, it's like
believe
a
that,
Micro Center but on steroids,
yeah. So
and where you can get like Radio Shack level components as well.
and Micro Center went in that direction. They have an electronics hobbyist section now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
We don't have a mic. I don't have
isn't there one?
Jacksonville being a million people in the city, and there's no electronics store.
I thought there was one. There was one not far. Isn't there one in Florida? Let me think. I'm just gonna look, but I discovered Micro Center in 2001 when I went to visit a friend in Chicago, and then found out that there was one in New York. Oh, here we are. There's not one in Florida, but there is one in Georgia. You can go to Marietta or Duluth.
Yeah,
Where's
that's
Duluth, Georgia? I don't even know.
it's interestingly it's near Atlanta, which is where the Fry's is.
Yeah, but again, when I started out, there was a Micro Center in Nassau County on Long Island, and now they have one in Queens, and they have one in Brooklyn, and they have one in Yonkers. So there are ones all around the New York area. Anyway, that brings me to the end. I'm sad that Fry's is going because, again, the one time I was in a Fry's, it was one of those places where I could imagine myself giving them a lot of money if it was nearby.
Oh yeah, but
So,
apparently the people that have them nearby did not feel the same way.
well, again, unfortunately, Amazon is eating into a lot of stuff. And I say that as somebody who buys a lot of stuff on Amazon, especially now when the most excitement of my day sometimes is going to the lobby and getting my packages.
Sure. I just ordered a $5 little accelerometer from Amazon because I don't have a store around that I can buy it from. So
Yeah, a lot of
and
the
Amazon's super convenient.
that's how they made all their money, being convenient. And I do make it a business to try to shop at other places as well, but Amazon again will deliver me the item that I need sometimes in the time frame I need it.
Yeah.
So there are advantages to that. So that brings us to the end of the show, and you were going to tell us about an experience that you wanted to share with us.
So my birthday is Saturday.
Really? I really should have that on my calendar. We've known each other long enough that I should write it down.
Well,
I'm writing it
this
down
year
now.
my wife forced me to go out last weekend. Forced me to go out shopping for my birthday present, and we could not find a birthday present that I liked locally. They found one up in Washington D.C., but they didn't know if they were going to be able to get it. So I came home and searched local inventory on the internet, found what I wanted, and bought it over the phone in like 15 minutes. It's not here yet. It'll be here in like it could be here any day. It's on a railroad car, so who knows?
What is big enough that's going to be on a railroad car? I'm wondering.
That you can also buy over the phone in 15 minutes. That's the part that blew my mind.
An automobile?
A Ford F-150. So I'm super stoked about that, and it's got the Android in it, or the Android Auto.
And your
And,
birthday is
like,
February 27th?
wireless. It is.
I'm writing this down so I remember next year.
So I'm super stoked about that.
There we are. You're now on my calendar.
Yay!
Along with, apparently, I hooked in the WordCamp calendar in case I ever wanted to attend a WordPress event and have not actually attended one since I put that onto my calendar. Since I figured they were all online, why not? But they've never had any sessions that I was interested in, despite using WordPress for the site. So apparently this Saturday is WordCamp Prague. I don't think I'm going, but I just
Not in
noticed it. On
Prague, no.
Well, I just noticed it was. Well, I meant it's a virtual event, but I just meant that
Oh.
I don't think I'm bothering to attend. But so far, I have not found, despite the fact, as I said, I use the system. I use it for like hobbies, like Android Buffet, and they're always every time I've listened to any of those events, all the stuff on the schedule is how to make money with your website. And
Well,
clearly,
sure.
we're not in this for the money.
Clearly.
Although I want to once again thank Daryl for his generous interval-laden contribution. He does send us a couple of dollars every so often.
Oh.
There is a link on our website where you can actually send us money, and it just goes into the pot that I use to run the server. So we're again not looking to get rich. We did try that ad thing a few years ago.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work out for us. So
That's okay.
we're just here to enjoy ourselves, and hopefully that you join us for that.
We do it because we love it, not because we're getting paid. Although we wouldn't object to being paid.
We wouldn't, but who would pay us for this?
Yeah, I know.
I think we'd have to put in a lot more effort if we'd have to turn this live stream into one of those exciting ones.
And I'm just at that point it becomes a job and not fun.
Yeah, and I like I read articles, which I would do anyway. When I find an article for the show, I click a button on my phone where I read most of my articles, and it puts it onto a list. And then at the day before, 2 days before, I go to that list and take out the articles and assemble the show notes. So that takes me like 20 minutes. And I've already read
And I
the
just
articles.
show up.
Yeah, he does the easy part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just the comic relief. You're the actual, you're the one that works to actually make this all, work. I
As
just
little as
show up.
possible. I'm not saying I don't do stuff, but I'm saying that my goal is to sort of get it down to a science. And sometimes, even though I've bought this, I've bought audio equipment so that I could leave it in the corner, not fiddle with the settings, and have it work perfectly every week. You may have noticed that doesn't quite work out for me.
Maybe, but by and large,
Yeah, but you understand what
we
I'm
do
saying.
have a fairly seamless system that you work
Yeah.
out pretty well.
Yeah, but sometimes somebody says, well, the audio's too low. Well, I didn't touch the audio at all. It's the same audio I had last week, so I have no idea why it changed all of a sudden.
I know.
Now I'm leaving behind an audio setup here permanently. So I'm leaving behind a microphone and an old mixer when I leave. I'm already planning my exit strategy. I'm sorry, I miss home. If I lived in Florida, it'd be different.
I understand.
I'm frustrated because Florida is not New York, and I'm not talking about there are plenty of problems in New York. I'm just saying it's not the area that I feel comfortable in all the time. I like visiting for a week or two. 3 months is a little more than I like to spend anywhere. You start missing your home.
Of course.
Also, my bed there is nicer. Not that the one here isn't good. I built the bed here. So. When I say I built it, I didn't knock wood. I ordered the frame. I assembled the frame. I put the mattress on there. So I assembled the bed. So that brings us to the end of this week. I am looking forward to next week, and I have some additional projects I have to do before I leave for my home monitoring system here, which runs Home Assistant. There are 3 of those Home Assistant systems I built in 3 different locations, and the one that's in snowy New York, apparently the house had a power blip and went off, so until I could get somebody to stop by and press the button for me, I was offline for a week. So I need to, before I leave here, since it's the same hardware, figure out, it did have battery backup, but it didn't last long enough, but I know that most computers have a setting where, and I thought I set it, where it will essentially, if the power is disconnected and then reconnected, it'll automatically power on instead of being in off mode. Jerry, have you seen that in the BIOS of some computers? I guess I lost Jerry.
No, I just had myself muted. Yes, I've seen it in the
I thought I said
BIOS
it.
of all computers.
Yeah, I thought I had said it, but I must not have, and that's the feature I need to enable on these computers so that if the power goes off beyond what the battery can handle, that when the power comes back on, the computer will boot up. Admittedly, that won't, cover possible corruption of the drive as a result of a hard power loss, but it's still more likely to not make me call somebody in another state and ask them to come open up the door and press a button for me, which is what I had to do with the other one.
Which I find amusing.
Well, no, I said when you're in the neighborhood. So I had to wait 2 weeks until that person was in the neighborhood. Because I don't know about you, but there are people who, have access to my home in case there's an emergency when I'm not there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the person I had to wait to be available. And if you've been following the news, it was snowing a lot in New York.
All over the U.S., though, I've heard, except for Florida.
I thought there were like 3 states it didn't snow in. I think Georgia got away with it too. But either way, when you're trying to deal with that much snow, pressing a button on my computer so that my weather station can actually send its data to be stored and so I can turn the heat and the lights on in the house is not really a high priority. So I was sort of clear. I was clear with them when you're over there next, because this is the person who, not just for me, but checks a lot of houses in the neighborhood when people are away.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said the next time you're over there, could you just go inside and press the button? And they were nice enough to do that for me. So I sent them a nice gift.
Nice.
A copy of Ticket to Ride. Anyway.
So, should we call it a night?
We should call it a night.
This has been a very this is an hour-long show that has been jam-packed today.
Well, again, it's nice when we have like a lot of meat. Lately, with the world being what it is, there hasn't been as much, Android meat. Also, Android is pretty stable, so there hasn't been like a show-stopping thing. I think companies are pulling back a bit, and they're proceeding much more slowly than they were before the current economic situation.
Sure.
So I think it's been hard for us. We still find things to talk about, but some weeks it's just there are like 5 things I found. And you may notice I don't put every single Android story that I must have read during the course of the week on there. I try to pick things we can talk about.
Yes, yes.
I'll
You
find
do
it.
a good job, sir.
I have my moments. So I'm going to go because I'm sure there's a Ticket to Ride board set up outside.
All right,
I
man,
told
you go have
you
fun.
they're obsessed. I don't, I enjoy it, but they want
And
to
they
play it.
haven't watched what you're doing and figured out your strategy so they could at least match you.
Clearly not, but I've told them what my strategy is. It's not like I've hidden it. It's a social game. We sit there and talk. I bought the online version so that I could see what strategies other people used.
All right.
I learned a few.
Well, you
Get
have
more-
yourself fun.
By the
Have a
way,
good
here's
night.
here's the secret of Ticket to Ride: get more points than the other people.
Isn't that the goal in every game except for golf?
Yeah, that's why I said it. My strategy is not that subtle. It's figure out how to get the most points. So I guess I'm good at that strategy. Anyway, until next week.
Till next week. Bye, folks.